Have you ever stopped and wondered why you have like 100 different choices for coffee, but probably only one company providing your tap water? Well, today we're going to dive into the hidden architecture of our economy. We're talking about market structures, the stuff that shapes the choices you have and the prices you pay every single day.
I mean, really think about it. You walk into a store to buy coffee, and you're just hit with a wall of different brands and options. But then you go home, you turn on your faucet, and that water is coming from just one place. So why the massive difference? And believe me, that's not by accident. It's all by design.
The answer can be found right here on what economists call the market spectrum. The best way to think about it is like a map. It shows us how different industries are organized. From one end, where you've got tons and tons of small companies, all the way to the other end, where there's just a single dominant player.
So to really get a grip on what's going on here, we're going to take a little journey across this map. We'll start at the two absolute extremes.
Okay, so the single biggest difference, the thing that decides everything else, really just comes down to one thing: power. On one side of our map, you've got what we call price takers. These are businesses that are just too small to have any real say in the price. They just have to accept it. But on the other side, you've got price makers. These are firms powerful enough to actually set their own prices. And trust me, that one distinction changes absolutely everything.
All right, so our first stop is one of those theoretical extremes, a world of what we call perfect competition. So in this world, just imagine countless small firms, and they're all selling the exact same identical product. The classic example is an individual farmer selling milk. Their milk is pretty much the same as every other farmer's. And here's the kicker: there's nothing stopping new farmers from jumping into the market. Because of that, no single firm has any power. They're all price takers. Okay, now stick with me because this is where it gets really interesting. For a little while, maybe in the short term, if demand for milk suddenly skyrockets, a farmer might be able to make what economists call supernormal profit. That's that extra bit of cash you see in the shaded area on the graph. They're making more than they need just to stay afloat. But, in a world of perfect competition, a party like that never lasts long. And this graph shows us exactly why. Those juicy profits, they act like a giant flashing sign saying, hey, money to be made over here. So new firms see that, they flood into the market, and they start producing too. All of a sudden, there's a huge increase in supply, and that pushes the market price down and down until, poof, those extra profits have completely vanished. So what does this all mean for us, the consumers? Well, the upside is fantastic. We get the lowest possible prices because these companies are forced to be unbelievably efficient just to survive. But the downside? Absolutely zero choice. Every single product is identical. Plus, since all the firms are small, they can't achieve economies of scale. Those big cost savings you get from producing in massive quantities.
Okay, now let's rock it all the way to the other end of the spectrum. Let's talk about the complete opposite: the monopoly. A monopoly is the polar opposite of that bustling marketplace we just saw. It's more like a fortress. There's only one seller, and they're protected by these massive walls, these barriers to entry that make it almost impossible for anyone else to get in and compete. They are not a price taker. They are the price maker. So how in the world are these fortresses built? Well, these barriers to entry, it can be a lot of different things. Sometimes a government just grants an exclusive license, or a company might control a vital resource or hold a crucial patent. Sometimes a company gets so big through mergers, it just basically swallows up all the competition. Heck, even super intense brand loyalty can act like a wall. And here's the big result. Remember those supernormal profits that vanished in a flash before? Well, in a monopoly, a company can earn them and they can keep them. With no new firms able to get into the market, there's nobody there to compete and drive the prices down. That profitable little sweet spot can be held onto for a very, very long time.
Now look, monopolies aren't necessarily pure evil. Their massive profits can be used to fund some incredible, groundbreaking research and development. They can achieve those huge economies of scale. And you don't have a bunch of companies wasting resources doing the same thing. But the downsides, they are serious. They can charge really high prices. We as consumers have no other choice. And without any competition, there's often way less reason for them to get better or innovate. Of course, in reality, most industries aren't at these absolute theoretical extremes. The real world is messy. It mostly lives somewhere in the middle of our spectrum. So first up, we have monopolistic competition. This is probably where you spend a lot of your time. It's a market with a lot of firms, and this is the key difference, their products are a little bit different from each other. Think about cafes. Yeah, they all sell coffee, but You choose one over another because of its brand, its vibe, its location. Each one has a little mini monopoly on its own unique style. And then you've got the oligopoly. This is where a market is dominated by just a handful of very large firms. The most important word here is interdependent. What that means is the actions of one company, like if a major supermarket cuts its prices, it immediately and directly impacts all the others. It creates a super strategic, almost chess-like competitive game. And you can literally see the difference in how they have to act. On the left, in monopolistic competition, firms have some control over their price because their product is special. But over on the right, in an oligopoly, things get really weird. See that kink in the graph? That shows why prices in these markets are often called sticky. Firms are actually afraid to change their prices because they know their few rivals are watching and will react instantly, maybe even starting a price war. Okay, so we've journeyed all the way from countless sellers down to just one. So why does knowing this map even matter? Why is it so important? It's important because it basically determines so much of our economic lives. Look at this table. It all boils down to a clear pattern. As you move from left to right on this spectrum, the number of companies goes down, the walls to get into the market get higher and higher, and the power to set prices goes from nothing to absolute control. And that directly impacts the choice, the quality, and the cost of almost everything you buy. And that right there is why governments have referees. You've got regulatory bodies whose entire job is to watch these markets like a hawk. They're there to stop companies from abusing their power, to prevent illegal price fixing, and to block mergers that would kill competition and end up hurting all of us. So here's the bottom line. From your morning coffee to your cell phone plan to the electricity in your home, you are constantly moving between these different market structures all day long. So now that you have the map, take a second and think about it. What kind of markets are you interacting with right now?